Alright, hello, citizens of the Nigelverse. It is Nigel once again, and this is going to be another wrestling review. So, we are continuing our look at Royal Rumble matches for the month of January. Not just Royal Rumble matches themselves, but matches that happened at the Royal Rumble as well, of course. And this week's review, when it comes to that, is a case of the latter. Now, back in 2011 through 2012, WWE were hyping up once in a lifetime. After what happened at WrestleMania 27 between John Cena and The Rock, where The Rock pretty much cost John Cena his match against The Miz for the WWE Championship in the main event of WrestleMania 27. And if you can believe it, now nothing against The Miz or John Cena, but kind of a rough time in WWE at that time. But nevertheless, as they had been touting once in a lifetime at WrestleMania 28. And by the time where we are in the timeline, that had come and gone with The Rock getting the win over John Cena. But as it turns out, and as we now know, in hindsight, it truly was going to be twice in a lifetime. The plan was always two matches. It was supposed to be a threefold story between John Cena and The Rock. The interference at WrestleMania 27, which The Rock was the guest host of. Then the match at WrestleMania 28, and then the rematch at WrestleMania 29. But they wanted to, I guess, raise the stakes. Perhaps maybe this was the plan all along, and decided that the WWE Championship would be on the line at WrestleMania 29. And at this point, John Cena had won the 2013 Royal Rumble. Well, and so now the question was because this was one of those years where the Royal Rumble was not in the main event, and which they've done from time to time. But now the question is, who will John Cena go on to face at WrestleMania? Who's going to be walking into WrestleMania as WWE Champion? And how did poor chick magnet Punk get caught in the crossfire? Let's find out. I'm, of course, talking about The Rock versus CM Punk for the WWE Championship at the Royal Rumble 2013. Now, as always, I'm not professional wrestling reviewer or analyst or anything like that. Just a man who enjoys a good time, and I had an okay time with this match. So without further ado, let's get right into it. And I'm sure there's the moment itself that you guys want me to talk about. I'm sure that's the main reason why you click on the video, either that or because it's me. But of course we're gonna get into that and more. Right off the bat, if you've seen these reviews of mine before, you kind of already have an idea of how this works. If you haven't, though, I'm going to be talking about what I liked and disliked about the match. So starting with what I liked, it wasn't the worst thing in the world. They, I think, were able to eke out a decent match between the two. And the thing is The Rock, even though he hadn't really been wrestling at this point, this was when Rock was fully Hollywood, and this was his first of many returns. Actually, technically not even the first if you count him inducting his father and his grandfather into the Hall of Fame. Those occasions, one of The Rock's first wrestling, I guess, returns, if that makes any sense. And so The Rock still able to be relatively in shape. The Rock able to keep himself for the most part in shape, and partially because he's in Hollywood, he's doing the movies and stuff like that, so having to keep himself in a great degree of shape, so not necessarily getting fully winded, which was nice. It wasn't a short match, but the match itself clocked in about 23 minutes, and I imagine that includes the extra chicanery, which we'll get to. But I think if anyone is able to carry Rock to a decent match, it's Punk. Punk getting the majority of the offense in on The Rock, with The Rock having to kind of fight back, but Punk kind of fighting smart against The Rock, I think, was a good choice. Punk even locking in kind of a different variation of the Anaconda Vice with the with the leg over the arm, which I thought was actually kind of cool, a little bit unique. And of course, The Rock at one point does lock in his infamously terrible sharpshooter. I guess submission for submission. And so I think these two did okay against each other. There was a funny moment where the Rock was about to take off the Spanish announce table, taking off the cover of the Spanish announce table, Punk putting it back on, kind of showing respect to the Spanish announce table, which they call on commentary. The commentary is Michael Cole, JBL, and Jerry the King Lawler for this one. And then, of course, The Rock collapsing through the table, attempting the rock bottom on Punk. So there was that, man, and it's not even, and definitely not the first time, but not even also the last time that would happen to The Rock. I guess The Rock, forget Steve Austin. The Rock's biggest rivals were those announce tables, because that actually happened to him a few times. And now the stipulation was that if the Shield got involved, then Punk would be stripped of the title. And sure enough, The Rock is about to nail the people's elbow. Then the lights go out. You hear some commotion, and Michael Cole, Jerry Lawler, and JBL, the commentary team, all know what's going on. They're talking about how the Shield's in front of them. The Rock is put through the table, and then the lights come up, and nobody's there. So Punk does get the win at first, because then Mr. McMahon comes out. At first, he pretty much chastises Punk, told him like, hey, the stipulation that the Shield weren't to get involved. He pretty much does call that the lights go out, meaning that they weren't supposed to be able to see the Shield. Well, now I imagine that might have been the plan, and for it to go that way, or probably was like, it's so obvious because you heard the commotion that they're like, there's no point hiding it. Maybe it's a combination of the two. I don't know. But then The Rock gets on the mic and said, nope, you're not gonna take the title from him. By that I mean Vince McMahon stripping him of the title. I'm gonna be the one to take the title from him. And sure enough, take the title from him. He does, as The Rock nails the people's elbow, ultimately to put Punk away, to capture the WWE Championship, which the crowd does pop for, but man, a lot of people were upset after the fact of The Rock winning the WWE Championship. Now, I'm going to get into kind of my thoughts on that in a little bit. First, to talk about what I disliked about the match itself. I think it wasn't anything super duper spectacular, and The Rock winning with the people's elbow. It's not the first time, and it wouldn't be the last time he won with the people's elbow. Hell, that's how he won at WrestleMania last year. But I've never really been the biggest fan of him winning with the people's elbow, because admittedly, and the argument can also be made for the rock bottom. It's not really a super impactful finisher. Like, The Rock's theatrics and his charisma are what get the finishers over. But between the two, I think winning with the rock bottom makes a lot more sense. Usually, I kind of see the people's elbow as more like the signature, and then he hits and wins with the rock bottom. But he has won with the people's elbow, so I guess it makes sense. But never been the biggest fan of it. It also the Shield's involvement and with like the lights going out. It's something that I think was clever on paper. Like you could see it, like, oh, Punk trying to weasel his way out, having the Shield interfere, but it does feel a little bit strange. At least the way they went about it. It did feel kind of. It felt a little weird. It felt like it didn't quite have the impact that they wanted to. It almost fell into lame duck territory, which is unfortunate. They did get the desired reaction, because the crowd did cheer Punk, but they also then cheered when McMahon came out and had The Rock restart the match, which in kayfabe, Rock doesn't necessarily have the authority to restart the match. Now, if they tried that nowadays, now that Rock in kind of kayfabe, he is part of like TKO board and everything. Obviously, he's part of it in real life, but I think if they tried it nowadays, it'd have more merit. But here it was kind of weird. How Rock just has it restarted, and then it's just like, okay. So it was kind of weird in that regard, or in having the Shield's involvement. Like, I think, and I'm sure a lot of you are like, okay, Nigel, if not that way, how would you have done it? It probably have the Shield, it'll beat down the Rock before then, like Rock still coming back, going against the odds. That one, I'm sure a lot of you can kind of take it or leave it there here as well. Like, oh, of course, The Rock coming back after getting the crap beat out of him, not just by the Shield, but by his own cousin Roman Reigns, which is crazy to think about, but. Or have the Shield like be involved at the beginning of the match and then just have The Rock win outright. But the fact that they kind of stalled it and delayed it there, and they gave Punk like the full celebration. He was posing with the belt, the crowd was cheering. Paul Heyman, which Paul Heyman did. He was there. He did kind of interfere at times. It was kept to a minimum though, so that was nice. It's pretty much having Punk celebrate as if he like actually won, and then they reverse it in that regard. That was kind of weird, but. Nevertheless, it almost felt kind of flat, at least to me. Of course, there, but otherwise, not a terrible match. Just it's kind of now. Excuse me. Now, a lot of people have pointed to this as being a very bad thing, and saying The Rock and John Cena didn't need the WWE Championship. If CM Punk should not have lost the WWE Championship here. CM Punk should have held it to WrestleMania. CM Punk should not have lost it to The Rock here. And admittedly, I don't know this for sure, so don't quote me on this. This might be one of the things that probably was like last straw for CM Punk. Not like the last straw, but one of the things that kind of pushed CM Punk to eventually be out of the company by like a year later. But was it the right call to have The Rock versus John Cena for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania? And I'm sure by the time John Cena won the Rumble, a lot of people kind of saw it coming. Heck, a lot of people kind of saw it coming even before then. They kind of had the feeling that The Rock was going to win the WWE Championship before then, and sure enough, that happened. But was it the right call? He personally, I'm kind of torn, or not. Admittedly, I'm kind of torn, and maybe that's a bit surprising. Maybe that'll cause a few eyebrows to raise. But allow me to explain. You see, on one hand, I agree. Rock vs. Cena 2 really did not. Well, a lot of people feel like it didn't need to happen, and after having watched both matches and reviewed both matches, if you haven't already, go check out those reviews. Those are on the channel, so you can check those out if you're curious. Having watched and reviewed both matches, Rock vs. Cena 2 really didn't need the WWE Championship. In fact, them going with the story of like kind of John Cena being desperate, wanting to get back to The Rock and avenge his loss from the previous year, or I think would have been suffice, which is what they kind of did, but they tried to do it with a face Cena. They did not want to turn John Cena heel. It makes sense to an extent because he's like a merch machine, and he's like kind of seen as like the ultimate goody two shoes in a way, pretty much like Superman, but yeah, they were not turning John Cena heel. So, well, I guess in that regard, it kind of makes sense. It's there, and I guess giving it the WWE Championship kind of gives more bang for its buck. When it comes to that match, but it really was not necessary. And CM Punk, a lot of people said CM Punk did feel like a third wheel in that regard, and you know what? I agree. CM Punk did kind of feel like a third wheel. He almost felt like an afterthought in that picture, and it's the point where Punk had been very vocal about it, and him leaving after that, I think a lot of people felt like Punk was justified when it came to that. Pretty much, this is your WWE champion, and he's feeling like an afterthought, while John Cena and The Rock get all the spotlight. That does kind of suck. Speaking of suck, let me. What also sucks, my laptop dying, which is why I'm about to plug that in. There we go. But John Cena and The Rock getting all the spotlight. Meanwhile, CM Punk feeling like an afterthought. Excuse me. Yeah, that does really suck. Because this is your WWE champion. Yes, it's John Cena. Yes, it's The Rock. Yes, they're both very big stars. Whereas, yes, you kind of already locked in that they're gonna face again at WrestleMania, but This is your WWE champion, and this is a guy who's been here, or who a lot of people liked. A lot of people who in the WWE universe pretty much enamored with CM Punk. Punk especially this was post pipe bomb. Um, uh, so yeah, it makes sense for Punk to get more of a focus, but he didn't really get that, which is unfortunate. However, on the other hand, and well, actually, I should mention this before I get into that part, or is that CM Punk, of course, would go on to face The Undertaker at WrestleMania, and that is a match I'm definitely going to review at some point. But we're not quite there yet. But Punk would fight The Undertaker. Apparently, the plan originally was going to be a triple threat between CM Punk, John Cena, and The Rock. And admittedly, if that happened at WrestleMania instead of just Rock Cena 2, I think it would have made for a much better match, honestly. Even if Punk didn't retain there, like even if it was WrestleMania where Punk lost and Cena won the title from there, or if Punk had gotten that spotlight and had gotten more of that focus, I don't think too many people would have been mad at it. However, at the same time, let's say everything was kept the same, right? Let's say John Cena and The Rock happened as planned. They went one-on-one again, and this time no W Championship, and CM Punk was still W Champion. And now let's just say his feud with The Undertaker would have happened. Now, how what? Because on one hand, and as much as The Rock didn't need the WWE Championship, The Undertaker at this point in time really didn't need the WWE Championship. And that's no disrespect to The Undertaker. Or as a wrestler, Undertaker's probably my favorite wrestler. But Undertaker really did not need the WWE Championship at this point in time where he was in his career. So having Punk lose the WWE Championship to The Undertaker, I think probably would have been even worse. At least Rock Cena, at least that was like main event, and at least that had another level of build to it. Punk and Undertaker had its build, of course, but CM Punk and Undertaker for the WWE Championship, I think probably would have been worse, at least in the long run. There's that on that hand. But on the other hand, would they really have CM Punk end the streak, be the one to end the streak? Now, admittedly, I don't think as many people would have been mad at Punk being streak versus, say, Brock Lesnar a year later. But I don't know if they would have necessarily given it to Punk. Now, like I said, a lot of that's just speculation on my part. I obviously don't know for sure because A, that's not how that happened, and B, I don't work for WWE. That would be sick though if I ever did. But yeah, I don't obviously know for sure. But me personally, I think if the cards were played out the way that they did, like if everything that happened in 2013 happened the exact same way, where CM Punk did go on to face The Undertaker and John Cena did go on to face The Rock one-on-one, I think this might be best case scenario. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Now, like I said, if we did get that triple threat match, if the triple threat was the plan, then and I can definitely see that I definitely not even can just see, but I can argue even CM Punk retaining here. Like by all intents and purposes, CM Punk getting a win over The Rock would have been huge, and it would have been a huge boost of momentum for that triple threat match. Like CM Punk getting a win over The Rock, and Punk having multiple wins over John Cena as well. But but where we stand, like, if this was planned all along, if everything had gone according to plan, which it seems like it did, then I guess best case scenario. But admittedly, that's why it's kind of up in the air, and I think it can be left up to interpretation. I think, but that's kind of how that's kind of my thoughts on it. But nevertheless, that's going to do it for this review. Thank you all so much for watching. Excuse me. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor: like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload. And let me know in the comments below your thoughts on the match, my review of the match. Did you like this match? Did you like my review of this match? Let me know. And do you think that CM Punk should have retained here, or do you think The Rock winning the WWE Championship here was the right call? Let me know in the comments below. But thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys later. Peace.